YouTube is aging up, and in this video, I want to talk to you about how to take advantage of those trends. Smart TV viewership is on the rise. I'm going to talk about why. The audience on YouTube is actually getting much older, and the Zoomers that started watching YouTube as 12-year-olds are now in their 20s. And the last thing is that the niches of content on YouTube continue to widen. People are making all forms of content now, and everything is pulling views.
Yeah, I feel like people forget that half of all viewership is coming from connected TV on YouTube.
I honestly don't think people understand how high their percentage of TV audience actually is. And so if you're a creator and you're watching this video right now, you probably just went in your mind, you're like, wait, how high is my audience percentage on YouTube? And to figure that out, go to your dashboard, actually go to your analytics tab on your dashboard. And then there's an advanced mode that you're going to see in the top right. Click on that, go to devices, and then it'll show you percentages of where your viewership is coming from. And you can actually click on the TV, and then you can click lifetime and see how much your TV viewership has grown since the life of your YouTube channel was created. And I think most of you, or just anyone watching this video, is gonna be very surprised at how high that percentage is. And the other thing that kind of contributed to this is during COVID, a lot of people were staying in. Like, we didn't go outdoors. Like, we were sitting inside. I know I personally watched a lot of YouTube from my couch. The other one is connected TVs. I don't think people truly realize that like most TVs are now connected to the internet, and most of those TVs have the YouTube app on it. I've now had the YouTube app for a long time on a Samsung TV that I use, but most people over the last 5 years have upgraded to smart TVs, and that has also led to people using the YouTube app on their smart TV. And then the last two things that I've kind of figured out over time is the audience on YouTube is getting older, and just the consumption habits of 20, 30, 40-year-olds, no offense to them, but they like watching content on TV. And then the last one is just longer videos. This has been a macro trend that we've heard a lot of people talk about. Videos are getting longer. Sometimes for me personally, it's hard for me to watch a long video on a little phone like this, especially if it's 40 minutes long and I'm watching Outdoor Boys, and I would rather have that experience on my TV. And so that's happening. And I think with the longer videos, you're seeing a lot more co-viewing. It's like families with their children are sitting on a couch and they're watching YouTube together. I think all those have kind of led to this rise in connected TV viewing. And so that's the first one. The second one I want to talk about is just the audience, which we kind of talked about in a second, but the audience on YouTube is getting older. And I think as you think about, you said to me before this podcast, you said Gen Z, think about how young they were when they started watching YouTube. They were 12 years old. They were watching Logan Paul, Jake Paul. They were watching all these individuals on YouTube make
in like
vlogs.
2013, 2012, yeah.
And now they're 21, 22, 24. Yeah. They're not watching that type of content anymore. They are watching outdoors videos. They're watching travel videos. They're watching fishing videos. Like their habits of what they're interested in are very, very different. And so I think that's something that you should pay attention to as well, of how YouTube is changing, is the audience is getting much older.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about. It's really, Gen Z is 97 to like 2007. So if you're born in like 97, 98, like you're getting like 24, 25, and now you're a part of that 25 to 35. And where I think in our minds, we just think that, oh yeah, Gen Z, it's like they're 18, it's really more they're aging into that next bracket that like, we're in,
Yeah. And the best creators in the world, the ones that figure out how to do this for a decade plus, are the ones that have, one, either evolved their content with their audience. So they started making content for 10, 12-year-olds, and now they make content for 18-year-olds or whatever that is. Or you go the opposite direction and you start making content for teens and you just aged into children. Yeah. Right. And so it's like one of the other ways usually happens, but those are the creators that usually build longevity on the platform. And then the last one, I kind of touched on it for a second, but the widening out of content niches on YouTube, I think this is also a macro trend that I really started to realize a couple of years ago, where yes, there is some individuals that have become the biggest on the platform, but I that is like few and far between. I don't think that continues to happen. I actually think YouTube is widening out because of all the content niches and things that are happening. And like farming channels is something that I realized 2-3 years ago that was starting to become something that people were watching. The one that's really doing well right now, people are mowing their lawns, and they're mowing like for 40 minutes. It's like they'll clean up the entire lawn, Al Blades, SB Mowing, It's just YouTube has become so vast in the different types of content that are on the platform. Whereas before, it was a lot of creators making the same type of content, which I think we kind of went through that evolution during COVID too, where everyone was really making the same type of content.
Yeah.
And you, like, for example, would go on the trending page and there would be a trend that was across YouTube. And there would be, of the 40 videos that were on the trending page, 27 of them were about the exact same trend.
Yeah.
That feels like it doesn't happen anymore. Like, I went on trending page last night and every video that was on trending was very, very different than the other. And so I think YouTube as a platform is also expanding. It's also become the platform right now for podcast viewing, which I think kind of led into what we talked about earlier, which is like longer videos are doing better. Podcasting is growing significantly on YouTube. And I think that kind of leads into the third one I wanted to talk about. So how do you take advantage of these trends? I wanted to talk about that a little bit. We talked about connected viewing is growing. We talked about the audience on YouTube is getting older. And we talked about the content niches are widening on YouTube. How do you take advantage of that? I think one is you do need to understand what devices your viewership is coming from. You need to understand if individuals are watching your videos from a tablet, a smartphone, or a TV. And depending on where they're watching your content, I think you should think about, how do I make content for that specific device? Especially if you're a content creator and 60% of your viewership is coming from connected TV, that really, in my mind, should change the type of content that you're at least making. Because I think the sitting on your couch watching content on a TV is very, very different user experience than watching content on a smartphone.
Yeah.
And I know you talked about this earlier too. You kind of think that there's two types of YouTube right now. There's the 30-minute, 20, 30, 40-minute YouTube, and then there's like the 1 to 4 minute YouTube. And there's not really a place in the middle anymore. It seems like the 8, 10, 12, 14-minute videos that used to be the norm, everyone was making those. It seems like those kind of are getting washed out at the moment. So understand your devices, understand who's watching your content. Experiment with video length, I think, is another one that a lot of creators have been making 12-minute videos their entire careers. And I get it. It's worked. But you're now starting to see a decrease in viewership. You have to change it up. You have to figure out, should I be making longer videos? Should I be making shorter videos? I think every creator should be experimenting with this right now, because everyone's heard people talk about it. The macro trend on YouTube is longer videos are doing better.
I think the behavior is like, you're sitting down on your couch, you got the connected viewership. There isn't much of a difference for me when I see like a 20-minute versus a 30 versus a 40. It's like, I've got time right now, and that's what I'm locked in to do. Like, I'm not going to look at a 30-minute video compared to a 40-minute video and be like, I'm going to choose one over the other. It's like, I have the time. When you're saying like experiment, I'd be like, if I'm making like 30 and I feel like that's long, I'd push it. I'd go 40. I'd see like, hey, my connected viewership is 50%, 40%. I'd be like, let's see how long I can strap them in here, and like see how it does.
Which also leads to more ads. So now if you have a 40-minute video, you're putting an ad break every 5 minutes. You're making significantly more and you have a higher RPM on your videos. And so I do think creators should push that. I think they should see how long their videos can get and if their audience responds well to it. I think the other thing too is, how do you take advantage of this macro trend? A lot of creators in the past have just kind of copied other creators for things that pull views. Everything has really worked. Like I feel like I've almost seen everything on YouTube, from an individual wearing a GoPro at McDonald's and like filming their work shift to someone who fills vending machines. And a lot of it is like pulling hundreds of thousands of views a video. So I think like, don't be afraid to experiment. Do something you really enjoy, film it, and hone in on that craft and understand how you do the best job filming that specific type of content. As all these content niches are widening out and there's becoming a wide variety of content, the YouTube algorithm is becoming so much better at your homepage, kind of feeding you content that you think you're going to like. Like my homepage, for example, is like very heavy podcast, like nerdcore, like Marvel YouTube channels, like things that talk about Lord of the Rings. Like it now knows, what my brain wants to watch when I go to YouTube. And so I think as the algorithm gets better, like the individuals that care about channels where you're mowing lawn, like now those videos, you start to get fed other creators that make similar types of content. So I think as a creator, you don't want to just make the same content that 37 other people are doing. Like you want to find your niche of what you want to make. And I think YouTube right now is a really good place to do that because of the widening out of so many verticals.
I don't think people should be afraid of like the downtime in their content, right? I feel like it used to be crackhead edit, and we've talked about it before. You talked about, you know, it's definitely very evident in the lifting community on YouTube. Like it used to be just, you know, power music and you're just lifting, and now you're seeing like more commentary. So I would think of it too as like, if you're somebody who's just, you have a really tight script and you're just like, I'm going from A to B, hard cuts, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I feel like you have more time now to like open it up to your dialogue. Yeah, let it breathe.
Yeah.
Try some of your own like dialogue in it, your own context or whatever's happening. It doesn't have to be like the same thing you were doing for a year, because I think people are more open to stuff that breathes and people just like talking in their videos.
Yeah, totally agree. So yeah, understand your devices and where your viewership is coming from. Experiment with video lengths. Don't be afraid to try out new types of content niches, and understand once where your content is coming from on what device, how you actually optimize for the best content for that specific device. So thank you guys for coming to another episode, and see you next time.
I think the biggest takeaway from all of this is that you should subscribe to Nightlight.
Shameless plug.
You got to do that. You talk about great stuff in there.